I can say that the key of success of the German army was the Blitzkrieg concept. But I would like to introduce you some hidden factors which were key in the realization of this concept. These factors were the Schwerpunkt, the Auftragstaktik, and the radio network of the German army. Schwerpunkt can be translated as center of gravity or point of main effort. Every unit in the army, from the company to the supreme command, decided on the Schwerpunkt, which meant that commanders always knew what was the most important and why. The German army was trained to support the Schwerpunkt even when risks had to be taken elsewhere to support the main effort. Blitzkrieg combined arms warfare, combined forces attacking to Schwerpunkt to create a decisive breakthrough. In the doctrine, armored vehicles would attack directly to the enemy's line, supported by artillery and strike aircraft. Meanwhile, fighters would seek and destroy enemy fighters to achieve air superiority. This would achieve a surprise breakthrough which will disrupt enemy formation and break down discipline. After a hole opened on the enemy's line, mechanized infantry supported with armored vehicles would suppress any resistance and advance to enemies' rear lines. Pockets of enemies would be created, and the final stage of this warfare is the Kesselschlacht, or annihilation of these pockets. Through Schwerpunktbildung, the German army could achieve superiority at the Schwerpunkt, whether attacking or defending. The second point is the Auftragstaktik, which can be translated as mission-type tactics, also known as mission command in the US. It is a form of military tactics where the emphasis on the outcome of a mission rather than the specific means of achieving it. In mission-type tactics, the military commander gives subordinate leaders a clearly defined goal, the objective, the forces needed to accomplish the goal, and a time frame within which the goal must be reached. The subordinate leaders then implement the order independently. The subordinate leader is given, to a large extent, the planning initiative and the freedom in execution, which allows a high degree of flexibility at the operational and tactical levels of command. Mission-type orders free the higher leadership from tactical details. For the success of the mission-type tactics, it is especially important that the subordinate leaders understand the intent of the orders and are given popular guidance, and that they are trained so they can act independently. The classic German approach called for every commander to be trained to function effectively at 2 levels of command above his appointment. So a platoon commander would be expected to control battalion actions if needed. And the third point is the radio network. During World War II, the German military made extensive use of radio. One of the key elements of the Blitzkrieg was the coordination of armor, air power, artillery, and infantry, and radio was the perfect medium for this coordination. The German victory over Poland in 1939 illustrated how communication between land and air units could more effectively defeat an enemy. However, it was the success of the Panzer troops in France and Russia that showed how indispensable radio had become in armored warfare. A brief review of their opponent's failure will help to show the advantage radio gave to the German panzers. Detailed accounts of the 1940 Battle of France illustrate time and again how the French army lacked the proper command and control techniques. Despite having a numerically superior tank force, the French never able to mount a concentrated defense or a major counterattack. Their battle plans were issued verbally before combat, and units would have to stop and regroup to receive updated objectives. The Soviets were never able to press their advantage. Their armored commanders lacked the ability and freedom to make rapid decisions. While local counterattacks by T-34s were often successful, they were not maintainable without fresh combat orders or coordination with other units. By the time further counterattack was approved and organized, a German defense would usually be prepared. Thus, while most Soviet armor had basic radio equipment, the training and infrastructure necessary to properly utilize this radio equipment was not available. In stark contrast to the French and Soviets, the Germans provided both the training and equipment necessary to meet the radio needs of their armored troops. Almost every armored vehicle had a radio receiver, and most had a transmitter as well. Special armored radio vehicles were often used to coordinate communications between headquarters, air, armored artillery, and infantry units. These vehicles were designed to accompany armored units on the front line and beyond. By equipping their combat vehicles with radio and supplying special armored radio vehicles, the Germans formed a complex radio network for their panzer troops. The most frequently encountered of these specialized vehicles were the command tanks, or Panzerbefehlswagen. The key elements of the command vehicle was the presence of additional radio equipment which provided access to a wider range of frequencies. These supplemental radios allowed the relay of information from headquarters or aircraft to other vehicles in the unit.